we are. Some of us are still hungover, I see, probably at home in our jammies. I don't know whether we're hungover from football or food or whatever, but I'm knowing everybody had a great good time this Thanksgiving, and we're filled with that sense of fullness and blessing. Fullness and blessing. So it's a very appropriate day for you and for me to be looking at the calling to us now for this week, and that is to see ourselves and experience ourselves as grace-filled individual expressions of life. And so grace is not something we're unfamiliar with, but we all have our own peculiar take on it. We see it the way we see it, especially because we're used to saying grace before meals, and where I come from, you also say grace after meals. You say grace before and grace after. And so grace is a prayer for some of us and so forth. But grace is, the real meaning of the word is favor, favor. To be graced is to be favored. To be favored in a spiritual way is to be graced. Grace really is the light of the soul. It's the energy of the divine. It is the guidance of sacred wisdom. It is the life force in life. Grace would be described by Eric Butterworth in the book that we're studying, The Universe is Calling. He calls it simply the creative force in the universe. Grace is many things, and it's more than that. There's no describing it because it's part of that which is ineffable, and we can never describe that fully. But grace is what you are and what I am and what all of life is. It's energy. Again, it's the energy, the cosmic energy, the infinite energy, the divine energy that flows through everything and blesses everything and favors everything. And so you often hear people say, oh, she was so favored. She was so graced in that healing. And he was so blessed in his success. And we speak like this as though people are singled out to be super favored by the divine in some special and unique way. Well, that's just not so. Nobody is more favored than anybody else. And there's no more amount of grace given to anyone else than there is to you and me. Because, why is that? Why is that? And yet you look at people and you say, oh, they're very blessed, they're very graced. And yes, they are. But it has nothing to do with the favor of spirit being given to them over and above somebody else. It has to do with their ability to respond to the grace that is within them. The same amount of grace is given to everybody. And the beauty of that, as I was sharing this morning, is that you and I can do everything and anything we want to in order to become the greatest villain that the world has ever seen, to be as dark as we can be. That would put Darth Vader before his conversion to shame. I mean, we can go that route and we can have that human experience and we can take that on and we can decide to become the greatest devil, and if there never was a devil, decide I'm going to show them there is by becoming it. We can do all of that either consciously or not, subconsciously, either willingly or unwillingly, and yet we will never ever succeed. We will never succeed. Sooner or later, grace is going to have its way with you and with me. Sooner or later, grace is going to consciously fill every aspect of our being, and we will be as we were created to be. What was that? The image, the nature, and the likeness of our Creator. And since we are the chosen expression of life itself, the divine, there's no way we can become anything other than what we are. We can fool ourselves and play around with this and that and the other because of spiritual amnesia and total unconsciousness. And in the end, like the prodigal son, we will all come to ourselves, wake up, and realize that we have been living an illusion, and the truth is, I am. You need never say more than that. I am. And what I am is that which created me. I am the same substance. I'm the same nature. I have the same DNA, spiritual DNA. And one day, that's where we'll all end up, returning back into that awareness, back into the self of ourselves. There's no way you can ever self-destruct no more than I can. It's impossible. It's impossible. As I say, if I could sing, you'd be having opera every Sunday and you'd never get out of here because it would be Wagnerian. And you know how long they go on. But anyway, getting back. Think of grace in this way. Say you and I decide to, in our darkness, lock ourselves into a house and close every door and seal every window and make sure nothing can get in. Well, it's amazing, but life has a way of getting in anyway. So there's going to be air, oxygen, finding its way through some area of that door or window into that house, enough so that you can breathe and have enough oxygen to be okay in there for at least a length of time. And grace is like that. It will find its way in. But more than that, it will find its way out too. Because within the darkness of the most villainous amongst us, there will be a seepage of that grace coming through from that center core, that pristine state of our essential self. And it will seep. And it will enter into our consciousness. And in time, it will illuminate the entire consciousness that you and I are. And then, da-da-da-da-da-da-dum-bum, bum. You and I will know ourselves as Spirit knows us. That is because of the unconditional love of the Creator. That is because of the mercy within the love of the Creator. That is because you and I will never ever manage to reap the harvest of all of our foul deeds because of the mercy of our Creator. And grace also causes us to reap far more than the good seeds of the good deeds that we sow, etc. That's the generosity of Spirit. That's the mercy of Spirit. That's the way unconditional love is. It cannot be overcome. It cannot be defeated. It cannot be lessened in any way within you or within me, good, bad, or indifferent. It's always going to be what it is, grace. And grace is, and it's constant, and it's continuous. It was, is, and always will be that which is available to you and that which is available to me. And I cannot separate myself from it, and nor can you. Foul though we may think we are at times, we cannot separate ourselves from the truth of our being. And one of these days, we will see ourselves, recognize ourselves, and experience ourselves as the infinite does. And you have to remember that the infinite, always and ever, only sees us at the level of our best, intact, whole, perfect, and complete. Spirit is seeing nothing of wickedness and sinfulness and awfulness and terribleness and all the rest of it. It's impossible for that which is whole and perfect and unified and harmonious and complete to see anything or experience anything other than itself, its own image and its own likeness. So when the divine looks at each and every one of us, that's all the divine is seeing, its image and its likeness, its goodness, its own reflection. It's looking into a mirror of itself. And one day, you and I will be doing the same. When we look into the mirror of ourselves, we'll be seeing a reflection of the divine, the source of our being. We will have come back home. We will get back to where we once belonged, as the song says. That's what we will do. Like it or lump it, want it or not, postpone it or gallop to it. It doesn't matter. We have all the time in eternity, which is endless. And sometimes it gives you a headache when you sit down and think about eternity. On and on and on and on and on. And if you're viewing it from this lifetime, you go, a cone, a cone, a cone, a cone, which means kvetch, 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 kvetch. Translating Irish into Jewish. Anyway, the whole idea is this. You may think what you like about yourself or anybody else. You may put labels on yourself or anybody else. You may define yourself or anybody else, but we're all wrong when we do it. Totally off the mark. There's nothing you can know about somebody except one thing. There's nothing you can know about yourself except one thing. They are the image and the likeness of their Creator, in all its fully orbed magnificence and glory. And that's the truth. That's why you and I will never get stuck on the wheel of karma, because of amazing grace and its mercy and its unconditional love and its ability to set us free in an instant. That's what grace does. It saves, it heals, it mends, it fixes, it transforms and transcends the illusion. That's what grace does. And you're loaded with it. You're full of it. Full of it. And it's all around you and about you as well. You see, there is no separation in good. There is no separation in God. Most of us think of ourselves as a pebble on the beach looking out at the ocean. Or sometimes we even manage to see ourselves as something drifting on the ocean. But in truth, what we are is the ocean. Is the ocean. So the grace of God is oceanic. It's beyond our even imagining. It is so huge. And that's why we say sometimes when we're a little bit more enlightened and we see somebody that everybody else is labeling this, that, and the other, there go I, but for the grace of God. When we're a little bit more together, we can do that. When we're a little bit more unified, we can know that. When we're a little bit more the image and likeness, we can feel that. There, but for the grace of God. And look at us all. If there was ever a divine comedy, it is us, I can assure you. It is us. But we're also the divine tragedy in that we don't know we are the divine comedy. See, that's what makes it a tragedy. And all the stuff we think we know is nonsense for the most part. Nonsense for the most part. So do not try to define me. You can't. And I certainly won't try and define you. I can't. Except in one way and one way alone. You are the image, you are the likeness of the divine, whether I like it or lump it. That's what you are. And I am called to honor that. I am called to respect that. I am called to revere that. And I am called to do likewise with regard to myself. No matter what the evidence is stacked up against me or stacked up against you, I have to float up, up, up above all of that and see with different eyes and hear with different ears and feel with a divine heart and not a human one only. That's what you're called to. That's what I'm called to. It's a big calling. It's huge. But we wouldn't be called to it if we were not equal to responding. And we are. The question is, do we want to? How attached are we to the illusion of the humanity that we are experiencing? How attached are we to this illusion? Do I want to hang on to all my judgments? Do I want to hang on to all of my ideation about life, living, and everything in it? Or am I open to emptying myself of all of that to simply be an empty vessel that is open to knowing only what the divine knows through me. Oh my goodness, there's a challenge. There's not one of us in this room that's not opinionated, some of us more than others. There's not one of us in this room that is not attached to our opinions, and some of us more than others. And we speak our opinions like they were the word of the divine. We do. We do. And far from being funny, it's dangerous. It can be destructive, harmful. And you and I, in the state of grace, we are called to be harmless. Do no harm. That's what we're called to. And if that was only our one and only motto to look to and to build our lives on, do no harm, it would be more than enough. You don't have to go to commandments or anything else. Just do no harm, for God's sakes. Just do no harm to yourself or to anybody else. And then you would cover it all. You'll be having all your bases covered in that one thing. Do no harm. 3 very, very small words. Do no harm. You try that for a day and see how almost impossible it is. I try it a lot. And sometimes I get up toward the late, afternoon, and then something happens. But we need to be doing this together because the world needs us now to be as graced, manifesting as all get up, to be as harmless as we can possibly be. Do we understand one time and for all that the governments of the world are not going to bring about the unification of this world that it needs right now? Or that group over in that corner, or that group over in that corner, or this upcoming wonderful group is going to do it. Groups are not going to do it. Individuals are going to do it. One changed heart and mind at a time. Individuals, and guess who the individuals are? I'm looking at them and I'm looking from them. We're the individuals. We have to do it. It's not them out there that needs to do it. Why can't they get a grip out there? Have they no idea, those folks who do this, that, or make these decisions or whatever? What they're doing is none of your business and none of mine. What I am doing is the power of one. Never underestimate a small group of people united under a common purpose for good. Margaret Mead, not exactly those words, but that's what she was saying. Jane Goodall, don't underestimate the power of you just taking one little bag of trash and recycling it. Just one little recycled bag of trash. Well, let's recycle all our own mental, emotional, and spiritual trash first. And then maybe when we do that, we'll be able to recycle everything else out there. But it has to start with you and it has to start with me. And it's quite the challenge, but we can make it an interesting challenge. And you know what? We can achieve and succeed far better working together with each other than on our own. That's why we come into spiritual community, so that we can keep each other buoyant, so that when we fall asleep, we can be gently nudged back into a wakefulness. Gently, I said, nudged back into wakefulness. Not, oh my God, what's the matter with your consciousness? I've heard people say that. And as soon as they do, it's not your consciousness that's in question, it's theirs. Because people who understand how life is would never make such a statement or even think it. There's nothing the matter with your consciousness or with mine. There's only something the matter with the way we use it. So that's why we're in spiritual community. so that we can be stronger as a unified front, as a unified one mind, one heart, one group, one family, one soul family, one amazingly graced family. There's no end to the good that you and I can support and help to advance. No end to it. But when you and I are sitting on our own in our own little corner, in our own little room, on our own little chair, on our own little stair, or wherever the hey we're sitting, when we're on our own, it doesn't appear to be like that at times. See, amazing grace is what says to us, no one and nothing is hopeless. No one and nothing is helpless. There's always that grace available to us that we can allow to move up through us and out from us, and actually into us as well, because it's within and it's without. Sometimes we'll be able to get it from within, sometimes we'll take it from without. It doesn't matter how we wake up to it, as long as we wake up to it. I call upon the power, and I call upon the presence, and I call upon that infinite substance and energy that is what I am a composite of, and I allow it to move through the madness in my thinking, or whatever it is, the pains and aches I'm experiencing through my body, or whatever it is, the things that are going on in my life that's going to hell in a handbasket, whatever they happen to be, and I can relax into knowing that that is all dissipating itself for as long as I know it is dissipating itself, and I support it through my thinking and through my feeling and through my doing, because that's the law of consciousness, and it must happen according to the law of consciousness that is always the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and will not change. Oh, the power that indwells you is phenomenal. The power that surrounds you is phenomenal. And guess what? There's no other power. There is no other power. It is the only power. But you and I can use it for good or not so good. Yes, my dear ones. Yes, Virginia, there is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you are using it. One way or another, you are using it. So let us together make sure that we are using it from that amazing state of grace. It's a phenomenal thing. It's such a gift. And you and I now know about it, but what are we going to do about what we now know? Do we shelve it with all the other knowledge we've shelved and not moved upon it? Or will we this time move upon it and allow ourselves to be the gift that we're here to be, the chosen expression of life itself? Oh, it's graced and it's amazing, and so are you.